all, Peyton Marine here with another episode of Attempts at Coherent Thought. And today's subject, I'm going to talk about IP or intellectual property and copyright as it relates to wargaming in general, but more specifically, I'm going to talk on kind of the 40K side of things and Games Workshop. So let's dive right into it. So as some of you may know, I have a little bit of, personal experience with this particular subject just because I had my previous name for my page and everything that I had done was the Tech Marine. Because I thought it worked well because I did more, not just like there's so many people doing paint things, so I wanted to focus on like the conversion and modeling, and then also do painting and techniques and tips as well. So I thought like the Tech Marine, technology, techniques, Tech Marine, that was kind of like, cool, whatever it goes. But then I got that nicely worded email and had to change some things up because while I have not, well, I can't say have not. I have taken some like very limited commission work and stuff. I do it kind of off and on here and there, so I guess I have made money painting models. I can't really say that it was because of my name, the Tech Marine, at the time that would have sold my brand or whatever. But I was also using a logo, well, not a logo, but the profile picture for the page was like the artwork of a Tech Marine that's out there that you can pretty much find anywhere and in the codex and stuff. And so I guess that coupled with that, and a lot of people are like, well, they can't copyright like Space Marine and Tech Marine, and then I went through a whole long process of trying to figure out like what exactly they can and can't do, because you can't technically copyright something to the extent of Space Marine or Guardsman. Those are too generic of a word. However, they can. And what I mean by that is because if it's used in direct relation to their product, it is a copyrighted, protected word, material, whatever. So 40K, Space Marines, also Adeptus Astartes. Like, I know they've done a lot of things, like Tau is another one. They've added that apostrophe in to kind of like more or less copyright that in a way, because Tau is, I don't know if it's Latin or something. There's an actual planet out there now referred to as Tau, and so they're trying to tighten up a bit more, but there is still that gray area where, like, if they wanted to push it, like, they gave me a nicely worded email, that's fine. And it's not really if I wanted to put, like, if they wanted to push it, but rather if I wanted to push it and be like, you know what, I should be allowed to use this as a generic word. I'm not really a direct competition to their product, although part of the email did say, like, it could be misconstrued somehow. I don't know how, but because I've never said that I was endorsed by Games Workshop or anything like that, but that because of the associated artwork and stuff, that it could be seen as an endorsement or whatever, or using their brand recognition and such. So I get that, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, well, I guess that kind of makes sense. So the easiest thing for me to do is just figure out a different name. And the Paint Marine, I was like, well, that's kind of a play on words, play on the thing. That's cool, and that works. And then coming up with the new logo with the artist from Adepticon was awesome and really cool. So I mean, in the long run, I think it worked out better and everything. But yeah, so this is that whole attempting at a coherent thought. So back to kind of the overall, I guess, issue at hand is now, while they're tightening up ship and making it a little more obvious, what's their IP, what's not, which is good. I'm glad that, that's not glad necessarily, but it's smart that they're doing that. It makes more sense because they're just cutting out a lot of the gray area. Now, what a lot of us have recently seen is the big takedown, if you will, on shapeways and other 3D printed materials and sites. Um, a lot of parts and shoulder pads and icons and stuff of because there's a million chapters out there. Like we know, like we get it. Games Workshop, Forge World, they can't support every single obscure chapter out there. That's just it's not reasonable. It's impossible. Um, but they started to go after whatever you want to say, take down um, those products that people were doing on Shapeways, which it's their legal right to do so because it is their intellectual property and other people are making a profit off of that. But however, how is that going to affect the community in the long run? Like, if they see this company who like says it's all about the hobby, and to kind of plug mini wargaming a little bit, they're doing this series right now where they went to Warhammer World and they're interviewing different people and stuff, which is really cool that they're able to do that because as we know, like they're the first ones that got into this whole market of video content and stuff for wargaming. Really got well anyway. But anyway, so they did some interviews, and one of the things I can't remember which interview it was, but one of the employees there at Games Workshop said they have a saying there that like the hobby wins. So like if they're play testing something and somebody loses a game or whatever, something doesn't work out, they're like, well, at least the hobby wins. So that's an interesting saying because it's like so they're about the hobby, but then like they're gonna go after somebody who is providing a service that they themselves don't provide to further the hobby, and so is that in the end going to hurt the hobby? Is it going to push people away from them? Or are people are they counting on the fact that they've got their hooks so deep into people that something like that isn't going to affect them? That they're going to be upset maybe, but that's not going to stop them from buying Games Workshop models and such. I don't know. I really don't. I know there's a whole chapter approved. Was not chapter approved. Chapter House Studios. Um, that whole lawsuit. I honestly I couldn't tell you. I'd have to look it up again. I can't remember if that case got thrown out or what. Or I think technically Chapter House at the time. I think they won that particular lawsuit, but because of that is part of the reason why they've started really tightening up. Like Games Workshop has started tightening up their IP a lot more. But yeah, so it's like I said, like when I was given that, like had I wanted to fight it, go in a certain way with it, I could have attempted it, and the same with other people with like the Shapeways thing, like they could try to fight it potentially, but the problem with that is usually we're individuals. We don't have the resources of a major company to afford legal fees and lawyers and all that kind of stuff to the point where it's easier to not fight it. And like I said, like I got it, I understood it. I was like, yeah, you know what? I guess that kind of makes sense, even though I'm not making any like money hand over fist at all with the little bit of commission painting I've done. At most, it really just helps me buy new brushes and paints by the time it's all said and done. But yeah, I don't know. So that's kind of a brief, if you will, but kind of an interesting look at all that. But on to the other part of the IP is alternate and or proxy models. We all know there's plenty of other third-party companies out there that make models that are quite obviously to be used in conjunction with Games Workshop products, whether they're full-on proxies or other bit companies. I think Chromlech, Puppets War, I don't know what else, Red Dog Minis, there's, what is another one, Wargame Exclusive. There's a lot out there, and I think I don't know how many of them are, but they're like Poland and Russia. There's like a really gray legal area as to what or like how Games Workshop, or I don't know how, what their jurisdiction is out there in the rest of the world. Um, but yeah, so the question to me then is, so obviously when they can reach out and touch people that have these abilities to like make 3D printed stuff or whatever and to shut them down, they usually do. But when they can't legally touch somebody um, and get them to stop, what we do have models that we can get, um, and how like where do you go? Now, obviously, in Game Workshop stores and places like that, they're not going to allow you to use another company's models in place of a model that Games Workshop does, or even a model that they don't support. But maybe there's rules or a conversion that people do, or something like that. Um, but as some may have seen on my page, I have gotten a few of the Wargame exclusive, the Grim Skull Tau models, um, just because they're so cool looking, really. And I had mentioned I'm not a big fan of like their female aesthetic ones because I don't know, like especially like the Tau, like they're described like you can't really tell too much of a difference between males and females, other than like the females have like the Y nostril slit instead of a straight slit like males, and other than that, but I don't know. But and so like they have a few Tau females that obviously have more human anatomy to them, and are also scantily clad, which is not very effective in combat, really. But I mean that's kind of neither here nor there because I do like a lot of their other models, and like I said, I have, oh shoot, how many do I have now? Five of their Tau alternate models. Two they're painted, and I just got another three and then put together, which I'll probably show you here in a sec. But yeah, so like obviously, so here, let me show you this guy. This is like, what is he, the Ghost Sergeant or something? I don't know if it'll focus on it instead of me. There you go. So yeah, I mean, he's pretty sweet. There's no rules for him. I mean, he could be like a Shazui. He could be a stealth suit guy. I could use him as. But it's quite obviously a Tau. Like they call it the greater good, which obviously like that's another thing too. It's like okay, can't call it Tau, so they call him a greater good, whatever. Oh, then you have Big Shaz. Well, Shaz, it's obviously a Tau thing. Now this one too, this is their Dark Strider replacement, proxy, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, like this is obvious. Like there's no doubt that this is with his name Dark Strider. Like, I mean, he's replacing Dark Strider. He's the greater good Dark Strider. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a really awesome model. Yeah, I mean, I find them all awesome. This guy too, the greater good like gunslinger, kind of a Western style thing going on here. So again, like they're really cool. There's not like technically rules except for like this Dark Strider guy. I mean, he does have rules, and but yeah. So the question is like, who would allow these models? Obviously, Games Workshop stores and such will not, and I get that. And most local gaming stores will, but when it comes to them doing tournaments, they usually don't. They just want actual Games Workshop. Like some will allow like obvious proxies and stuff, but then there's some that don't, which I don't necessarily agree with. Like if it's modeled properly enough that it's obviously, I can't go like, okay, this is my Storm Surge. I can't do that, or whatever. Like he has a burst cannon slung over his back. So if I was to proxy him as a stealth suit, which I think he could be able to do, I don't know why not. It's like the base is the same size and everything else. But I wouldn't be able to say, oh, he's a fusion stealth suit. Like, well, he doesn't have a fusion blaster on his back. If I want to do that, I would have to try to figure out a way to model a fusion blaster, slung over his shoulder. So yeah, I don't know. I wish Games Workshop would be a little more lax with that. and I get it to a point though, because I guess if they were to get a little more relaxed and allow people to bring these types of models into their stores, obviously some people are like, wow, those are cooler than the little whatever I can put together from them. I'm gonna go here and buy this model. Plus, like some of these characters are usually a bit cheaper than the Games Workshop ones. So I get that. I understand that's why they don't want those models in their store. And plus, if they were to be like a little more lax on it, then that could signal these companies like, oh, well, if they're gonna be more lax on it, I'm gonna go, you know, it's crazy. I'm gonna go crazy and make all kinds of models and things. Then, yeah. So I don't know. Unfortunately, it's kind of I can't even say it's a gray area. It's unfortunate because there's some really cool models out there, some cool proxies and stuff that I would love to play in tournaments or ever. Instead, I just get them because they're cool, I guess, and paint them and sit them on the shelf. Um, Another thing I think would be fun with the Grimdark Tau ones is to make some kind of an RPG style um, game around these models because they're very, they have a lot of character. Excuse me, and it'd be really fun to play some sort of an RPG style because I know like Fantasy Flight, I think it was, had the RPG for a while. They had like was it Dark Heresy and like a Death Watch one, and they had all these other like Imperial, very Imperium related RPGs where you could make characters and stuff. But there hasn't ever been a Xenos one as far as I know, which would be pretty cool to have like a Tau and like, or you could do like an Eldar one too, and just do RPGs like that. I think would be cool, and these characters would be great somehow to model into that. But yeah, so I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you have any other ideas or things about it. In the end, I get IP. I get it. I can see both ends of the spectrum though. I kind of wish if they're not going to supply like certain things that they would at least allow others to. But I can also see because of their schedule of things, I was like, well, maybe the reason why they're going after these Shapeway people is like these certain chapters that they're going after are ones that they're getting ready to release, but because there's such a time delay as when they're working on things to when they come out, maybe that's why. So obviously, I get it. Then if there's something official for it, then you probably shouldn't be recreating it. Um, that being said, like that Dark Strider model is awesome. That the Grim Skull has done. However, maybe they shouldn't call him Dark Strider because that's a blatant IP ripoff to me. Even though it's greater good and they don't use Tau, like, come on, that's a straight ripoff. Even if like it's obviously still a straight ripoff because his weapon he has is very similarly. It's still stylized to their style, but it's still pretty much the same one that Darkstrider carries. So I mean, it's obvious what it's supposed to be. Just call him something else. Call him. I wouldn't even like do a play on words. You can't even like instead of Darkstrider, be like I don't know. Lightwalker. I don't know. Light whatever. It's like trying to do an opposite. I'm saying Lightwalker sound like Skywalker almost. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree because I love these other models that these other companies do make. I had mentioned a few like Puppets War and Red Dog, which make some bits that I'm going to be using to convert some my Pathfinders into some Vespid because the Vespid model's alright, but they're in need of an update, and those two companies make some bits that I can make some pretty cool looking Pathfinder Vespid style proxies. However, I'm never going to be able to use them in a Games Workshop store, and that sucks. I mean, I get the full models like saying, oh yeah, you know what, you can't. Well, I dropped him. All right, like I get like I'm saying like yeah, I can't play him in the store. Like he can't be my Shazwi or whatever I want him to be. Like I get that. It's a full complete model, and but you know, and I know some stores do like a at least 50% or something like that has to be. It might even be more than that 60%. Like has to be Games Workshop. Um, but I don't know with this one I'm gonna have like packs and weapons, which is still more than 50%. But like I don't know the packs. Like the rest of the model will be all Games Workshop, but the packs themselves are just so unique that like even though it's gonna be mostly Games Workshop material except for these two parts, it's gonna be such a huge difference that I don't see them allowing me to use it in the store because of how big of a difference those packs make it. Uh, so I don't know. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on that. Like, do you think Games Workshop stores should allow models with other third party conversion bits on them? Do you think not just like a 60% has to be Games Workshop or 50%, but to the point where like maybe even a majority of it, is and a majority of their army is converted because um, there's not all the parts. Like Games Workshop doesn't make all the parts, or sometimes it can be expensive to like, oh, I need to buy these like other models just for parts, or like even going onto eBay to find those parts from bid sellers. It can be kind of rough. So I mean, if a third party makes the part or somebody 3D prints it or whatever, I kind of agree that in the spirit of the hobby, it should be allowed even in Games Workshop. As much as they might not like that, I think if there's a demand, or even if there's not a demand and you just want it because it's a cool thing to do, I think it should be allowed. But like I said, I do get like I taking the whole like Grim Skull full model that you might be using as a proxy for something, but there's 0% of it Games Workshop. I get that, like not allowing that into that, but I don't know. So yeah, so just let me know what you think. I'm curious to know what everybody else's thoughts are on this, because like I said, it's a really interesting subject as far as like especially with certain things where I've always seen the argument like, oh, they can't copyright Space Marine, they can't copyright Eldar, they can't copyright this, and like right, and they're obviously tightening it down because they can't 100% copyright it to the extent that they want to, because like I said, they could still technically copyright things in context. Like Eldar is obviously everyone brings up the Lord of the Rings and like they can't copyright that, and it's like, well, but they could copyright it within the 40K realm of things if you get that. Like it's not that hard of a concept to understand. Like, you know what? Yeah, if you're using it somehow in direct relation to 40K, then it's a copyrighted IP material, because the 40K Eldar, while yes, they do take similarities and they meld a lot of different things, it's still its own thing. Um, and that's just how that works. Um, but yeah, so let me know what you think in the comments below, and until next time.